Welcome to Empathy Empire, where we interview the most empathetic people on the planet. I'm your host, Kim Smiley. This episode is brought to you by Caramana Friedberg. You can find them at cflaw.ca. My guest today is Emily O'Brien, an entrepreneur, the founder of Comeback Snacks, and a living testament to the power of second chances. Emily, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to meet you in person after so many years of admiring you from a distance, and we're really grateful that you've allowed us to come into your beautiful home.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So I was looking through your Instagram photos and I saw on your upper arm, I can't remember if it was right or left, you have a tattoo that says Amor Fati, which from the Latin means love of fate. Tell me about the inspiration behind that tattoo.
Well, it kind of relates to my brand, my company, Comeback Snacks. And my comeback started when I was in federal prison, and then this turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Tell me about how a middle-class girl lands herself in federal prison.
Well, it starts with, I didn't think I'd ever end up there either. I'm sure most people don't ever. I wasn't this career criminal by any means. I was seeing in 2013, 2014, we actually worked together. We went on a trip, and I was actually struggling with substance abuse at this time. I was always a drinker. Like, I went to university, had fun drinking. But then when my parents got divorced, it kind of turned from celebration to medication. And then that's when also cocaine became involved because I was running a company. I met this person through my work, and he was sober. And so he kind of became like I didn't want to go to AA. I tried to go to a couple AA meetings, and it was just not my thing. So we became like good friends. We were never like physically involved, but we just kind of really liked each other and trusted each other. And so he invited me on this trip. And then 3 days into the trip, he goes from the nicest person I'd known a long time to we're bringing drugs back over the border together.
Was he your boyfriend at this time, or still just a friend?
I would say a friend, not even with benefits, because we weren't even hooking up physically. It was just like someone that, I don't know if you've ever had this. It's hard to describe, but it was like someone that I knew, someone that I trusted, someone that I liked hanging out with, and someone that I worked with.
And so he said, let's go on a trip.
Yeah.
I want to take you on a trip.
Yeah.
No mention of drugs at all or anything like that.
No, and I was looking forward to it because I've traveled with people before that are friends. So I've traveled to other countries with people that are friends that are guys. So it's like, okay, sure, why not? And I was looking forward to it because I thought it would be a sober trip. But then on the third day, he starts pounding back shots, and then it's
this guy who you thought didn't drink, you thought he was completely sober.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Jekyll came out.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And was like, did you really think this is all fun and games? We're here to work. And so I have to get in the car with him. And at this point, I'm not too worried. I'm like, oh, are we going to go volunteer or something? And we get to this house, and it's like a bed and breakfast. And this lady comes out.
Where were you?
St. Lucia.
Okay.
And this lady comes out of the house. It's not like you think you'd see in the movies. It's not like guns and drugs. Sorry, there were drugs. There was no guns. There was no rabid dogs. There was no people sitting in thrones with lots of jewelry. It was like a lady and two other people. But then when I got inside this house, I could see the bricks of cocaine in the walls. And then they're like, thanks so much for doing this. So it turns out that he had a debt. And when he booked this trip, he had arranged for us, he took my passport info and sent it to them and told we're going to be bringing drugs back together.
So you were completely blindsided by this whole thing he had. He had a whole plan, and you were totally blindsided by it until the third day of the trip when he took you to this, what was it, like a drug house?
Yeah, but it didn't look like one. It just looked like a little bed and breakfast. It was like a cute little house.
What happened next?
So then after that, I was just blown away, but I wasn't scared. I thought it was just a joke still. But then as the next 3 days passed, he was just like, you have no choice to do this. You have to do it. And I said I was going to be really bad at it. I'm a terrible liar, but he was just in so much debt. He didn't care. He just did not care. And then finally, after kind of really, really battling against him for this, and I was just drinking out the whole time just to make the days go by. He said, can you not? Fine. When we get to Pearson, you can take the drugs off, give them to me, and I'll put them in my backpack. So I'll walk over with them. So that made me feel a little bit of relief.
You believed him?
Yeah. Because I was I was a wreck. It was definitely a wreck until the last day, but then on the last day I chose to not drink because I knew that my body language would hopefully send some sort of message.
So when you say that you're a wreck, you're saying that you were really intoxicated the whole time this was happening?
Yeah, well, no, not intoxicated, but just emotionally as well.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that.
I was upset at myself for like not seeing this, but how could I have, like, every relationship has like red flags, but they come out as white flags in the beginning, right? Like that's kind of what I saw at first. It was, you know, here, I'm gonna help you like kind of get through this tough time in your life, and you can come on this trip. It'll be a safe, fun trip, and get out of the city. And then it was just completely not that.
Did you feel like, oh my God, I'm so naive?
Yeah, I was really mad at myself for a little while.
You were 26 at the time?
Yeah, 25 or 26.
Pretty young.
Yeah.
And he was how old?
He was 38, so 10 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about just taking me back to the house with the bed and breakfast / drug house. What happened? Like, did they put drugs on your body? Like, how did it happen for you to take the drugs over? How did they outfit you with the drugs?
The Wednesday was when we had to go to the house, and the lady took my measurements. And then on the Friday, we had to go back and get these drugs. And so on the Friday, they picked us up from the hotel.
Like she's almost like fitting you for an outfit or something?
Yeah,
Taking
it was
your
like
measurements.
It was like bike shorts.
Okay.
I called them Spanx for smugglers. Yeah, so they had a pocket in the front and then a pocket in the back. But obviously they're not just going to give us drugs to hang out with at the hotel for 3 days. So they have to wrap them, and then we go back to the hotel on the Friday. They put the drugs on us and they drop us off right at the airport.
Okay. And he told you, Noah, this is what we're calling him. That's not his real name. But he told you that once we get close to Pearson Airport, like you were traveling from St. Lucia to Toronto, we'll go in the bathroom and you'll give me the drugs and I'll put them in my suitcase.
It was actually when when we were landed, he said I could do it. Like go to the bathroom at Pearson, take them off, put them in my backpack, and then he'd carry my backpack over. But then when we got to Pearson, I went to go to the bathroom and he said, it's too late now. And so he'd never planned on taking these at all. So like my loyalty to him ended there. But I wasn't going to go screaming and causing a scene, because that's even more dangerous, right?
Did at any point when you were in St. Lucia for those 3 days that you were waiting to get the drugs and bring them back, did you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna call my mom. I'm gonna call someone for help. I don't know what to do. Did that cross your mind?
When I was down there, so he was just around me the whole time, right? And so he didn't want me calling anyone. And he said, like, you don't want to mess with these people. Like the cops he said, the cops down there already know. Like, and Canada can't save you. Like, once you're in a drug house in St. Lucia, far more worse can happen to you just by trying to alert someone than by just going through it.
He was manipulating you.
Yeah.
As an older man, this young woman, he was really manipulating you emotionally and in every way.
Yeah.
So you felt you had no choice.
Yeah.
So you got to Pearson Airport, and then what happened?
And then, so I go to the bathroom to try to take these things off. He's like, it's too late now. And then, like, I'm just so mad at this point. So I'm sure, like, the officers can tell that if my body language was off prior to that, I'm sure it was even worse then. And then you go through the first checkpoint. And I'm walking behind him because I'm just so mad at him.
But what's going through your mind when you're walking behind it? Like, is your heart palpitating?
Yeah.
Are you sweating?
My eyes were darting all over the place. I was just staring at the ground. My ears were ringing. But I just wanted to get through it. I just wanted to go home.
So you were behind him?
Yeah.
So he walks ahead of you. He gets through customs?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first part. And then when you exit at Terminal 1, you have to give that little slip.
Right.
So it has a little number on it.
Right.
And then he thinks we're all good to go. And then they tell us to go to secondary.
Because you never know what that number means.
Exactly.
So they told you to go for a secondary check.
Yeah.
So you walk into that room. You're with him at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Do they separate you?
Immediately. Back
Okay.
to back. Yeah. So I can't see him. He can't see me.
Can you hear him?
No.
You're in
I think
separate rooms.
they're separate booths apart. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens?
And then they asked me a series of questions like, when did you file your tax return? Like, what did you do for work? Told them the truth. And then they kind of asked me about my lifestyle and if I like to party. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, wow. Okay, I'm not going to deny it. And then there was a couple other questions. But the last question they asked me was that they're going to do a physical search and if I had anything to declare. So
they said that. Do you have anything to declare?
Yeah. Or it's like, do you have drugs on you? Something like that. Something like that. And then I guess it took me so long to answer, but then I snapped and I realized lying to a federal agent at this point is just another crime. And so I just told the truth. Like, I was busted anyway. And then they cuff me, and then they cuff him because he has it too. And we're placed in holding cells for what seems like an eternity of so long.
At the airport?
Yeah. And they have to test all the drugs too to make sure like what it is. And then, they confirmed, because there's like so many things leading up to that like I couldn't really chat. Like I admitted it, right? So, there I was. And then I got formally arrested by the RCMP after they tested the drugs. And then I was sent off to jail for the weekend.
They didn't let you call a lawyer?
They called my parents, I think, is what was happened. And then I called my one lawyer and they just said, you're in a lot of shit.
That's what the lawyer said. Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I can't just go home. He's like, no, you can't just go home. Like,
you didn't realize the severity, the magnitude of what had just happened.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I didn't plan it. I didn't.
You were just like a sort of like an accessory to it. You didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't understand really what was going on at that point still.
Yeah, exactly.
So when did it hit you that this is very serious?
When my parents had to get me out of jail and I was sentenced to house arrest and I had to move out of my apartment in Toronto. And I could only go to work. I couldn't go to the gym. And I could only go to work and legal appointments.
So you had a job at this point?
Yeah, I had my own company, social media company.
You had your own company at that point?
Yeah.
So you had the entrepreneurialism in you from the beginning?
Yeah.
It wasn't because of what happened to you that this entrepreneurialism sprouted. This was in you?
Yes, yeah. And I also had like a lot of jobs like just growing up. I loved like working and learning new skills in different areas. Like I worked from everywhere from like pizza making to like selling door-to-door knives. Like I worked for BlackBerry. I did contract jobs at the University of Guelph where I went to school. I did co-check, I did hosting, I did fine dining. So I was pretty well versed in the hospitality world.
And just take me back a little bit to your childhood. Just what kind of home did you grow up in?
A good one. Like my parents were awesome, household full of love. And we had to go to church every Sunday. Not sure how much good that did, but I was always in sports. I was a very quiet kid. I was shy because I had a bowl cut. My mom will never, I'll never forgive my mom for that. The bowl cut trauma.
Never goes away, right?
It never goes away. So I was just like always in sports, tomboy. Didn't have like a lot of girlfriends. I had two kind of close-ish friends, but yeah. So I spent a lot of time in the library, like reading and listening to music.
So you were a really studious, good kid. Didn't get into trouble?
No, not until high school.
Okay, what happened in high school?
Well, high school was when I realized how introverted I was, and I was tired of being an introvert, and I didn't know how to socialize. So got into the weed, started skipping class.
Drinking?
Yeah. Good old Colt 45, $5.
Yeah.
But then I knew that I had to pull my grades up to get into university, so I did that, and I called it strategic procrastination. Mm-hmm. And so got to university, and then university, same thing. Drank, kind of partied a bit, but always got my grades up and graduated with honors.
You're just like a regular girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Just a regular girl.
It's a little bit of wild. Like I always, for Christmas and stuff, I would never ask for like material things. I'd always ask for plane tickets. So I took my first trip abroad when I was 18 during my gap year, and I went to Costa Rica and I helped volunteer on the beach and then in the rainforest. And after that, I just loved going abroad and volunteering and learning about different cultures and parts and people of the world. So I thought that really like kind of built part of who I am today.
Mm-hmm. You disrupt a lot of ideas about what someone who got into the predicament that you got into would have as an upbringing and just be as a person. Because you had sounds like a pretty picture perfect childhood.
Yeah, that was good, except for those bullies at school. But my family was awesome.
So kids bullied you in school?
Oh yeah, for my bowl cut.
Oh really? Oh gosh, poor mom. You're close with your mom now, though, right?
We're best friends. Yeah, she knows I like to tease her about it. So
amazing. Do you think addiction was the cause of your problems with the law, or was it something else? Like, what is the systemic issue? Like, how you got involved, like on the wrong side of the law?
I think it was a combination. I think it was a combination of being ignorant. It was a combination of using substances, and also just being too trusting. Right, and having a miss. Sometimes you just don't know who people are until you find out the hard way. It's like I was saying before you got here, when you arrived. The current situation. Sometimes it doesn't come out until certain times, and there's honestly sometimes no way of knowing that. Mm-hmm. Literally no way. You can't be like, I wish I could have done something different.
Do you see the best in people? Like, is that just the way that you're built?
Yeah.
You always see the good in people,
yeah.
Even when other people don't.
Yeah.
You still are like that?
Yeah.
So this didn't turn you into a cynic in terms of how you encounter people or how you judge people. You always still see the best in people, even despite what happened to you.
Yeah, I would never let the goodness of so many other people not be seen because of
One bad egg.
yeah.
So I've read in just different articles about you that we call him Noah, right? This guy. You've forgiven Noah.
Yes. Yeah. A long
How
time
did
ago.
you get to that point where you forgave this guy who like took that part of your life from you?
Well, I think I was able to take that and build something really good with it. So I don't want to say that he gave me a gift, but I gave myself a gift. And that's because for me, I don't think forgiveness is about giving to him. It's actually about taking. You're taking your space back, your journey back, your future back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't let him steal that from you as well, right? Your
No.
future.
Life's too short. Got to build something good no matter what happens. And no one's going to own my life. Like that's it. If I was long and mad about it, like that's just more ownership to him.
Sure. So you were sentenced to 4 years in prison. After a year, though, you got parole, right?
Yeah.
So while you were in prison, you came up with this brilliant idea for this popcorn company called Comeback Snacks.
Yeah.
Tell me about the genesis of the idea.
So Comeback Snacks was started like, I knew that when I went to prison, I was going to start something. I didn't know what it was going to be. Some people are like, write a book. And I'm like, why? I haven't done anything. I just committed a crime and I'm going to prison, right? Like nothing, I haven't done anything. Like, what's the point of writing a book? Who cares? But when I went inside and I got to like learn about so many other people's stories, I realized that like no one really in there is a bad person. And that's kind of how I felt. And I felt like I could relate to everyone. But we also were so worried about what we were going to do for work when we got out. Like these conversations would come up at dinners and stuff because I was in medium security. And so we had a shared kitchen. And so we'd cook food from, favorite food from our childhood and just share stories that way. And popcorn was a popular prison snack. I mean, I always loved popcorn because part of my substance use was actually because of an eating disorder. So I didn't want this eating disorder to reemerge while I had maintained sobriety inside. And so I didn't want to go back to that.
Is that when your sobriety started, when you entered this facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I drink now, but like here and there.
Socially.
Yeah. And it's actually socially. It's not,
Right.
But you just have to watch it and make sure it doesn't creep up on you, right? And because there are times when it has been fun. I did have a lot of fun times.
For sure.
With it, right? Like bachelorette parties, weddings, not every single time. It was just in that one period that I chose to medicate with it because I thought that was the only solution. And I didn't know how to get through it, and it obviously didn't serve me well.
Okay, so take me back again. You're in a federal penitentiary.
Yeah.
But it's a medium security, you said. So what is it, like a house?
It's a house, yeah.
Okay. How many women are inside?
About 10 to 12, and there's like 20 houses.
And then what? There's a security person at the door? How does it work?
No, like because the people in medium are medium to low risk, usually low risk, there doesn't need to be security in the house, but they do counts every like 5 times a day. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can't go outside the house. You can wander around the house at any time but you can't leave the house after 11 o'clock at night, or else the alarm goes off and boop, 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 the whole.
Like you're wearing like something on your ankle or something?
No, but the prison had like walls with barbed wire.
Oh, I see. These houses were on the prison grounds.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did you become friends with the women that you were staying with?
Yeah. Yeah. Really close. I'm still close with them today. A lot of them.
One of them works for you, right?
A couple of them do, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So you had a snack as like popcorn as a snack.
Yeah.
Inside the prison,
Yeah.
and you started experimenting, I think, with different flavors.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like people would put their own kind of like favorite things on. Then I spent half the time just like seeing different recipes I could come up with. And then when we talked about the whole employment thing, it was just one day it was during Super Bowl, and I was like, why don't I start a company where I can employ myself, other people through bold popcorn, not just butter popcorn, because there's so a million popcorn companies out there that are butter or sweet and salty, but making it bold flavors with a bold mission to create second chances within and encourage second chances on the outside.
Do you remember the moment you had that epiphany for that idea?
Yeah.
Okay, so was it early on in the sentence,
It
or
was
when
in
was
March. Whatever Super Bowl is, it was that night.
Okay.
So, I went in on January 18th, so it wouldn't have been that soon, but definitely it was during Super Bowl, and I had this like little notebook that I kept beside my bed that I would write things in, and it just came to me that night, and I just wrote Popcorn Company. And then after that, then I knew that I could just have this feeling in me that I was like, I can build something like this because I'm going to share this story. I know not everyone's going to like it. Some people are going to hate it. A lot of people are going to hate it, but I'm going to build it because that is who I am. It's been a part of my life.
How could someone hate it? It's like everybody loves a good comeback story.
Well, there are like some very conservative people that are like, do the crime, you do the crime, you do the time, or lock her up forever.
But you did.
Yeah.
You did the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You served your sentence and then you created something incredible, a social enterprise out of it. So had you always been interested in the idea of social enterprise, like before you entered prison?
Yeah. I think it was because of all the volunteering that I did, like abroad, right? And just seeing the value that these kinds of organizations can bring to the world.
So you planned within prison to build this big company, or you just thought, oh, I'll just, mess around and see what comes of it?
And I kind of planned on making it a legit popcorn company. Yeah, I don't want to say manifest, but I like visualized it.
You don't like the word manifest? Why? It's a little overused, right?
Yeah. But I just visualized it, and then every day I would have little notes, and I had my little notebook, and I still to this day have that notebook, and I've done about 90% of those things in there. When I had ideas and who to connect with, who to reach out to, read 82 books in prison, and then I connected with the authors of those books, people that own local businesses I wrote to, the volunteers that came inside the prison I wrote to. So yeah.
And when you got out, you started right away making popcorn?
Yeah.
Just like in the kitchen?
Well, it's the halfway house kitchen, yeah. And then I was able to go to my mom's when I was living at the halfway house. So then I went to her house, and then we got our permit for a collective kitchen, because then you can actually sell it to stores and at events. Like you can't just like sell popcorn to the public that you make at your mom's house.
Okay.
And I had enough legal issues at that point. So yeah.
So you started learning about what it took to build a company, although you already had built a company. So you weren't like a novice at it or anything, right?
Yeah, but it was still a whole new world. But so my current business partner, his name's Ryan. He was my friend when I was in prison, and I just kind of told him this crazy idea. And so he came on as a volunteer, and over the years, now he's like actually full time. So
incredible. I like your tagline.
Oh yes, so good it's criminal, made with conviction.
Popcorn's so good it's criminal.
Yeah.
So when did you think of that?
I made that inside. I made all like the taglines came from the inside because those are the terms that you're told you are every day. Like you're gonna have this conviction, you're a criminal. So I kind of wanted to reformat those terms to my own personal use, right?
And imagine all that stuff.
Yeah, and use a word that people would think normally had power over you. You have power over it.
So did you brainstorm with the other women?
A little bit, yeah. Mostly myself though. But I brainstormed with like the volunteers that came in, and yeah. So the people that I still talked to about 5 or 6 people from prison, and yeah, some of them do work with me, which is great. And then I would talk to the teachers, a lot of the prison teachers in there too. So I just kind of asked everyone. I was kind of like this sponge for information and feedback. And that's like kind of what got me through every day. I just felt like it was just this new kind of feeling that I knew I was onto something, and I could teach myself how to learn how to do it. I had 10 months. So
did you write a business plan while you were in prison?
No, I didn't. No, I just kind of had because I had Ryan, my business partner, but we haven't really needed to have one. We have like strategy documents and all that stuff, but we've kind of just built it without having that big plan in place. Like, oh, actually no, because we had to have something for Dragon's Den, so I think we did.
Oh, you went on Dragon's Den?
We did, but they didn't air the episode.
No?
No.
Really?
So that's okay. It happens. So they actually asked us to go on again, but we'll see. Because there's no point going on if it's not going to be aired. It's so time consuming, like just preparing and all that. So, I mean, can't really step away from the company for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just raised our own money.
So you just did a round of funding, your first round of funding.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How was that experience?
It was fun. I'm learning a lot about that, that it's like another subject, right? First you're learning about snacks, and then you're learning about stores and retail. Okay, now you're learning about raising money. So just being able to learn and build a company it's awesome.
That's so cool. So where are you at now with Comeback Snacks? How many stores are you in?
So we're in about 700 stores. We continue to grow across the country. We have great distribution partners on Neil Brothers. They just merged with a distributor out west called John Luca. So now they're John Luca Neil. So that has opened up a massive sales for us and growth. And I even got my first customer on Vancouver Island, and they're their own distributor. So it's great, and we're in Madison Square Garden.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I can't wait to get down there. I'm waiting on my waiver. And And
How many flavors of popcorn at this point?
we have 5 caramel, and we're kind of sticking with that for now because it's too risky launching a new flavor. Like we know that what we has sells, so it's more just getting into more areas. And then we had a call with the U.S. distributor last week, so making those inroads into the U.S., but you have to do it smart because if you do it wrong, you can just crash and burn because it's really expensive. Yeah.
So do you have a mentor?
We got lots. We have like 6 advisors, but there's so many people that have helped us along the way, whether it's like startup organizations or people that work in the CPG space. Even our distributors have been great. So lots of people helping. And that's what I found, like when I shared the story with the media, a lot of people wanted to help and help build. So it was super cool.
Were you surprised how many people wanted to help and just they weren't judgmental? They really wanted to help you succeed.
Yeah, I was like, this is awesome. I kind of was. I wasn't sure. Like I knew that like hopefully you'd give some support, but like I just wasn't thinking it was gonna be as much as it was.
So interesting. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people have been so supportive of you?
Well, I took accountability for sure. Like, I did my time and I rectified the situation with my parents. I apologized to the community and I did everything that I had to do. And that's step number 1. You have to take ownership and accountability of your actions, good or bad, right? So I think it started with that and then the desire to help other people. But if you just play the victim and say, sure, I was harmed, I was a victim in some parts, but I also broke the law. So even though I wasn't like the mastermind of this, it still happened. And there's a lot of people that have been harmed by drugs, and including myself, right? So I also have to recognize that there are a lot of victims out there, or families that have had people have had, their kids or something fall victim to drug use. And so I kind of realized that, and that's kind of how it started, I guess.
Did you ever have that feeling of being a victim at the beginning and like you worked your way out of it? Or did you always have this attitude of like, I have to take up accountability for what happened?
I was definitely pissed off for a long time. I was really angry. Yeah, I think it was just a part of it. I felt an anger that I'd never felt for a person before in my life, and also towards like the law. Like, it's all these on the piece of paper, all it said I was this criminal, and then that was actually kind of lit the fire because I was like, I know I'm not this, but this is the way that the system works. I actually worked on changing some laws. The mandatory minimums, they don't exist anymore because I was part of like the framework to reduce recidivism, and that was actually part of it. So working towards systemic changes is another good thing to be a part of.
That's a big passion of yours and a mission of your company, I think, too, right? You do a lot of work with different organizations. I know that you support reintegration efforts and you support a lot of different charities that support reintegration efforts. Talk to me about that, just that whole notion of reintegration and what that means.
Yeah. So when I started it, I was like, I want to hire as many people as I can with records. And as we grew as like sales-wise, we didn't really grow as an organization because we barely had the money to pay ourselves, which often starts. So we still have a small street team, which is like people that have been to prison, but I had to figure out a way to scale this mission. And so what we started doing was being a part of like organizations called the John Howard Society. Well, I don't know if you've heard of them, and the Young Street Mission. And then I'll do panels, I'll do talks, I'll work with employers, job boards that do fair chance hiring, organizations such as Spot Work who list fair chance employers, and really helping to amplify the voices and the existence of fair chance employers. Because if someone comes to us and it's like we have some sampling stuff, but there's actually a lot of employers out there and the list is growing, and the goal is to get that list to grow. So that's something that we do.
So how much speaking do you do? You've almost become a public face for this.
Like 1 a week or 2 a week.
That's amazing.
I consider this like, and even just sharing your story like on a podcast, right? It's
educating people.
Yeah, absolutely. And how like, mistakes are universal, but so are comebacks. It's so close, or it's so easy just to suddenly get in conflict with the law. Like say if you're driving and you're in a rush and you're sending a text message and you crash into someone, guess what? You could be a CEO of a company and now you could be charged with a crime. So especially if that person passed away, right? And you're just doing something as simple as texting. It doesn't have to be this, I stabbed someone, right? Like there's so many different levels of things that can happen when we all just make these decisions emotionally. Doesn't mean there are some that, are obviously malicious intent and keep going and going, like a lot of the white collar stuff. But for the majority of women that I met in prison, they shouldn't have really been there.
Just regular women that had something bad happened, made one bad decision.
Yeah.
And they landed up in that situation, right?
Yeah.
What message would you give to people who sort of find themselves going down a path that's not the path that they planned? just someone who made a mistake, right? And their life took a turn and, has fallen off the rails. What advice would you give to them?
It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. I found like if I wasn't sad or angry for that amount of time, like it would have been hard to know that I didn't want to be there anymore, right? I had to roll around in the dirt for so long that I was like, okay, my life is not worth this. No one's life is worth being angry and mad all the time. We're humans. We're supposed to be happy and laugh and do good things with the world. And that just wasn't where I was. So that just wasn't where I wanted to be. And we can do really, really great things if we kind of realize that we've been hurt, but take that anger and rechannel it into something good.
That's beautiful. Statistically, do these programs work? Like, do people get reconvictions, or do these programs that you're doing with these organizations like Elizabeth Fry and all these different organizations, do they work in terms of people not committing offenses again when you give them a proper job and the tools to succeed?
So I don't have the stats on hand, but like I know that people that have worked for me and for other organizations that have a record versus to not having a record, they actually outperform the people that do not have a record because they have like this is like all they have. There's actually a report put out by the John Howard Society like a couple months ago, and I spoke on it, and it was like employers. There's a whole like academic article, but employers have vouched to the fact that people that have records, often outperform those that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
Yeah, so it's just you just have to give them a chance and be willing to teach them and also learn about them themselves and create like almost like a family-like environment, be their friend and know that it's going to be okay and recognize substance abuse. It's like I don't demand. I know that drug use, like especially, is hard for like a lot of people that I still work with and like in their families and stuff. So, if things happen, just let me know. And then so I'm not gonna, whether it's with you or a family member, like I understand the pattern of substance use. Like you can just be honest and open, and then that's what keeps them coming and working with you is because they feel like they feel safe.
You're an empathetic CEO.
I try to be.
Running a really empathetic company.
Oh.
I think that's just the heart, though, of your business, right? It's all about empathy. That's kind of the backbone of your business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to just give people chances, and it's amazing the feeling that it creates when you can see other people grow and be their best self. So.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. It was a pleasure to meet you in person.
You too.